guys, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Jay. Thank you so much for tuning in to my video. I'm gonna try and get straight to the point, but before I do that, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. Please share the videos with your friends, your family, whoever you want to share the videos with. It makes such a big difference. One thing I will say is if the lighting keeps going in and out, it's because I'm sitting in front of a window and I'm relying on natural lighting, so I'm sorry. But let's just get right into it. So today's video is going to be about my moving process, like applying to schools here in the United Kingdom, how I picked the schools that I applied for, how I'm financing everything. I'm gonna try and break everything down as best as I can for you guys today. So if I keep on looking down, it's because I'm looking at the notes that I have, because there's specific things I wanted to make sure that I speak about. I know I'm not in the center, but I'm just trying to make sure that the lighting is actually falling on my face. But the first question would be, when did I decide to move? So I decided that I really wanted to move, I would say January of 2019. I was really like, okay, like I need to get the hell out of Melbourne, because I was living in Melbourne, Florida, which if you don't know where that is, it is a small town that is about an hour away from Orlando. It's right on the coast. If you're familiar with Florida and like tourist places, it's about maybe 30 minutes away from Cocoa Beach. And I lived, I would say about 10 minutes away from Melbourne Beach itself. It's, when I say small, in comparison to Orlando, it's very small. I guess if you were to compare it to places here, I would say it's probably like Southampton. So for me, it just wasn't working. But before I was set on moving here to the UK, I was thinking of going to school out of state. Now, if I had gone to school out of state, I would have been paying out of state tuition, which if you're not familiar with how that works, you don't pay the same tuition as someone who's a resident of that state. You would pay a significantly larger amount. So I was trying to outweigh like the pros and cons of, okay, if I go to school in, let's say, Atlanta or New York, how much am I going to be paying, especially with masters? That's 2 years. So I have to worry about tuition for 2 whole years, and then my housing, like just all the expenses that go into it. How much money am I gonna have to pay? Do I have other options where I'm not paying as much money? But we'll kind of get into that a little later. If I keep looking down, I'm just looking at the notes that I took down. So how many schools did I apply to? So I applied to Royal Holloway, I applied to Queen Mary, I applied to Kent, I applied to Middlesex, and I applied to Brunel, however the hell people say it. But those are the schools that I applied to. I started applications at a bunch of other schools. I even applied to a school in Paris, but obviously I didn't end up going there. However, those are the schools that I did apply to. The first acceptance that I got was from Middlesex, and then came the one from Royal Holloway. I didn't get into Kent, which was heartbreaking, but it happens. And then with Brunel, they were being weird because they wanted me to do like a foundations course, and I was like, why would I do that? 1, 2, the way that they do this master's foundation thing is you have to do it through their international college, which I think is called London Brunel International College. That is not covered by US federal student loans. So I'd have had to pay for that out of my pocket. And I was like, girl, where do you expect me to get $10,000 from? I'm out, like I'm good. And then I got with Royal Holloway, it was kind of it was a bit of a process, because I initially applied and then I didn't hear back from them for a while. And I'd say in like July, they sent me an email saying, oh, we've withdrawn your application because you didn't submit such and such information. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I submitted everything through the application portal. I didn't miss anything. So I emailed them back and I was like, hey, it's just that you're missing the following documents, but I uploaded them in my portal. And I even took a screenshot and I sent it to them. I was like, here's my passport, here's this, here's that, like what's going on? And they're like, oh, apologies, it seems we're having an error with the application portal. We'll go ahead and reopen your application. And I was like, girl. But around that time, when I had applied to all of these schools, I applied as a Zimbabwean citizen. I had already applied for my American citizenship last year in November. I was just waiting for an appointment date for the actual interview and then for my swearing in. And then once I got my acceptance letter from Middlesex, I think I got my letter about the appointment maybe 2 weeks later, and my appointment was for July the 10th. And because the Orlando office for, like, I guess they deal with everything to do with citizenship, green cards, immigration, USCIS, the Orlando office was really swamped, so they sent me all the way to Jacksonville, and my appointment was for 8 a.m. I had to leave my house at 5 in the morning to get to Jacksonville on time for my appointment, so that was fun. But usually you have your appointment and then they send you a letter in the mail saying your swearing in ceremony is on such and such date if you pass the interview. So I was thinking, okay, they'll send me this letter, I should get it in the next 3 weeks, hopefully, fingers crossed. I know that it's been taking a lot of time for the appointments. But I got sworn in that same day because they were trying to get applications going as much as possible since, like I said, the Orlando office is swamped. We had people who came even from like Port St. Lucie who drove all the way from there to get sworn in here in Jacksonville. So they're like, instead of us having to send you a letter on a separate day to come back 2 or 3 weeks from now, we'll just do the swearing in. So I had my interview, I passed my interview, and I got sworn in that exact same day, which was amazing for me because 2 days later I applied for my American passport. So I reached out to Middlesex, and at this time by now, obviously, Royal Holloway was one of the ones that was like actively looking at my application. So I reached out to both schools and I was like, hey, there's been a change in my citizenship. Can I upload the actual passport that I'm going to be using now? And I went ahead and I uploaded that. Now, prior to all of this happening, Middlesex had scheduled me for it's like a visa interview appointment. So what it is you speak to someone who works for the school and they walk you through, like, okay, here's what to expect for your tier 4 visa interview if you have one. So as to my understanding, you don't always have an interview. They pick people at random. So you may have an interview, you may not. It's not guaranteed, but they pick people at random. So when I had the appointment, I was a Zim citizen, but I told the guy, hey, I just got sworn in, I'm a citizen, I'm just waiting on my passport. And he's like, oh, actually no. I told the guy and I was like, I have my appointment for my American citizenship this coming, I think I had the appointment on a Friday and my appointment for my citizenship interview was a Wednesday. I was like, I have my appointment this Wednesday, so will that change anything? He's like, okay, well, let's do this. Let's schedule you for another interview for next week, Friday. And it will depend on, like, if you get your citizenship, then you don't have to have this interview. If you don't, then we'll have to go through some other questions as well. So, okay, that's good and well. So once I got it, I let them know. And what the guy told me was, for American students, it seems like it's significantly easier. So if you're an American citizen, it's going to be a lot easier. You don't have to prove your financials. You really don't have to do that because, let's say, like for me, for example, I'm using US federal student loans. So all I had to do was print out the letter that came from Royal Holloway stating I'm using student financial aid, I'm getting X amount of dollars over the course of the year in 3 installments, and it will cover XYZ, like all my living expenses. So all I sent for my visa application was my passport, my acceptance letter, my student financial aid letter, and my housing lease. That's all that I had to send, and I didn't have to send anything. But let me just get back on track with the questions because that will kind of come into play just a little later on. And then as far as how did I decide which school I wanted to go to? So like I said, I had gotten into Middlesex, I got into Royal Holloway. I don't think I heard back from Queen Mary. I still haven't heard back from them, and I was like, that's kind of rude, but okay. And then Brunel, obviously, told me they wanted me to do the foundation. I was like, I'm not doing that because I don't have 10,000 pounds just in my bank account, sis. I got the money. I don't have it. So it was between Middlesex and Royal Holloway. Now, the appeal for me with Middlesex was I would get a year master's, and then I would also get to do a year-long placement. And I was like, that's ideal. I get job experience and I get my degree. So why wouldn't I do that? Like, that's the most ideal situation for me. However, they wanted me to deposit like a tuition deposit of £1,500. And I was like, I'm not understanding why, if I'm using student financial aid, federal aid from the US government, why do I still have to pay you a tuition deposit? Because I went to UCF. If you were using financial aid, you didn't have to pay a deposit because they know the money is coming. They are going to get their money. Like, it's not like I'm saying, oh, I'm using a personal sponsor. No, it's student financial aid. you're gonna get your money from me. Actually, not even from me. The government is gonna run you those coins, sis. So why do I still have to pay you even more money? Like, make it make sense. So because of that, I was really like, I just don't have that money. Like I really don't have it. So I need to look at my other options. And I let the woman know, and I was like, hey sis, I would love to do the year-long placement, but I'm not able to pay you guys $1,500 by the 30th of July, especially with financial aid. And here's the difference between them and Royal Holloway. With Royal Holloway, like with every other school that accepts financial aid, you don't have to pay a tuition deposit if you are using financial aid, because they know they're going to get their money from the government. The government is going to run them their coins, every single coin. And the reason being, so just to kind of break it down for like non-American citizens, non-American people not going to school in the States and using financial aid, let me put it that way. So when you apply for financial aid, you do it on the US financial aid website. It's called FAFSA. So you put in your application for your FAFSA, and you put in the code for the school that you want them to pay the financial aid to. And once that's done, you don't have to do anything else. You put in your application, you put in your information, that's it, that's done. From that point onwards, FAFSA communicates with the school that you're going to. The money doesn't come to you first and then go to FAFSA. And then go to your school. The money goes straight to the school, and then the remainder outside of your tuition comes to you. So I was confused. I was like, why are they doing that? So with Royal Holloway, my queen of making everything super easy, I did my financial aid, and they have someone who's dedicated to doing the international student, like for US loans specifically. And what you have to do is, with her, we did a spreadsheet of all of my expenses. And then after we did that, I went in and I submitted my Grad Plus loan, since I'm a grad student, and we requested the amount that we came up with from the spreadsheet of my expenses. So my housing, my transport, my maintenance money for the year, my food money, money for emergencies, textbooks, all that, it was all factored in. And that's the amount that I requested, because the person who handles US loans at your school has to approve the amount that you request. And there obviously has to be a chart that shows, okay, we requested, your tuition is 18,000, we requested X amount in US dollars. Your tuition is so it obviously, you can't just say, okay, can I have 90 grand? Why? It has to go with your cost of attendance for the school that you're going to. So ultimately, that's the reason why I ended up picking Royal Holloway. I feel like the programs themselves, as far as human resources goes, I feel like they're both good programs. I didn't feel like I would have been losing anything going to Middlesex. That's just my personal opinion. Royal Holloway is a good school. They just don't offer placements. So I felt like I was missing out in that aspect, that I wouldn't have the opportunity to do a year-long placement. But, it's going to be a-okay. We're going to be fine. We're going to make it work. So that's how I ended up choosing to go here, because they just made everything so much easier. In terms of communicating, I would email them, say Monday. By Tuesday afternoon, I had a response. With Middlesex, it was like pulling teeth trying to get them to respond. They wouldn't respond to emails, or take a week, 2 weeks to respond to emails. They weren't picking up the phone. There was just a whole lot that was going on. I will say, if I had started my application process a lot earlier, that would have probably made things a lot easier for me. So a tip that I have is, for anyone trying to go to school in a different country, start your application process as early as you possibly can. That will make your life so much easier in terms of getting all the documents together, and then also financially. Because if there's stuff that you have to pay for out of pocket before your loan comes in, or whatever the case may be for you financially, you need to have time to save accordingly. And if you wait until 3 months before school starts, like I did, you're gonna be like, I don't have money. But the next one I want to touch on was picking and finalizing housing. Now, okay, a lot of people with the housing in this country, for whatever reason, will not listen when you're talking. So luckily for me, the woman who does the US loans for Royal Holloway was like, okay, tell them exactly like this. You are a government-sponsored student. The US government is sponsoring your education. That's where the money is coming from. And you give them the letter showing the dates you're getting your loans, and they'll tailor a payment plan to that for you. And that's how I got into the place that I'm staying at right now. That's the exact email that I sent them. They said it's fine. Signed my payment plan. Everything was good. obviously you have to pick what's going to fit within your budget. So once you get the financial aid, you need to be able to afford to pay for the housing. Otherwise, what are you going to do? So I opted into a studio apartment. The biggest reason being I've lived with roommates before and it's difficult. It's not easy. Not everyone is the same as you. People have different living habits, different cleaning habits, different eating habits. Someone may be nocturnal and you're a daytime person, and that can cause a clash to where they're up making noise at night and you're trying to get rest. Some people aren't as respectful of other people as you may be, and that I feel like I never really had an issue with like people being disrespectful. I mean, I've had some not great roommate experiences, but that's a video for another basis because I have a story time for y'all. But it was more so I don't want it to be where I'm having to share a kitchen with other people and they're dirty as hell and not cleaning up after themselves, and now I have to go and yell at you to tell you to clean up, because I will be that person if I have to be. But I don't want to do that. I'm here for school. I'm not here to mother or baby other people's kids. I'm not here to be your maid. So if it's within my financial power and in my pocket, you know, it's a possibility for me to live by myself, took it, grabbed it right by the neck, because I was like, look, sis, I ain't trying to talk to people. I hate having to tell people what to do, and I will do it, especially when it's a common area that we're all sharing. But anyways, so as far as housing, here where Royal Holloway is, there are not that many like private student accommodation options. For me, going into a house with other people wasn't an option because I don't know these people. One, two, I don't want to have to share a bathroom. That was just, I was like, we're not doing that. I'm not sharing a bathroom. It's not happening. Impossible. So, and also by the time I was picking my housing, it was pretty late into things. So it was between the place that I'm at right now, another place that's called the Podium, and a place that's called the Pad. But they weren't really listening to what I was telling them about the financial aid. And I was just like, well, girl, I'm not going to stress myself out. So let me just go with the place that I found. And I do like the housing. I like it. The facilities are very nice. My apartment is really nice. I like it. Let me see. So, oh, disbursement dates. This is something that I had watched someone else's video about, you know, being an American, moving to London for school, da, da, da. One thing people do not talk about, look at the disbursement dates. So for here, they don't disburse my student loan until October the 17th. So I needed to make sure I had enough money from the 13th of September until the week of October the 17th and possibly the second week for groceries, for any emergencies. I needed to make sure I had the money because that financial aid is not touching my account until then. So I had to make sure I had the money for that. That's only if you're a new student. If you're a returning student, your financial aid comes in on the 19th of September. And I was like, well, ain't that about a bitch? Ain't that some shit? Because I don't understand how it makes any difference. Whether I'm new or returning, I'm here. Please give me my money. I have no money. I'm broke. Please help. Send help. So you just have to look at the disbursement dates. I'm not sure how it works for people who are doing private loans. And obviously if your parents are paying for it, like, you good, sis, you alright, you gonna be good. Like, you got the money from day one. So that's a whole different situation. So what if you are using financial aid? Be sure to look at the disbursement dates for your school and make sure you have enough money to make it until that day. Otherwise, you won't have it's gonna be a wild ride. Especially if, let's say, like with me, I don't live in catered halls. I just live in a student housing apartment complex. So I have to actually worry about making dinner, food, groceries. If you're living in catered halls, girl, you're perfectly fine. You ain't gotta worry about that. There's food in the catered halls. Like, you are perfectly fine. You may need money for like snacks and like toiletries and stuff like that, but food, like, you'll be straight. So it just depends on your living situation. Visa application process. So I paid for the expedited visa, which you get in like 3 to 5 days. Anyone who's familiar with applying for a visa to the UK of any kind knows that they like to use this terrible system or this terrible company. Sorry, let me just move. They like to use this terrible, ooh, this is bad. They like to use this absolutely terrible company that is called VFS Global. That company is the bane of my actual existence. It's the same company that when I applied for my travel visa last year, same company. They are the worst company I've ever dealt with in my entire life. They don't have chat. They don't have a phone number. they don't respond to emails. So it was a whole mess. I paid I'd say $570 something for the actual visa itself. I then had to pay my health surcharge fee, which is an additional 400 and some change. So in total, including okay, here's the thing. When you do it through VFS Global, you can go in and print a shipping label. Their website wasn't working. Like I could not log in. Like it wouldn't let me log in at all for whatever reason. So I couldn't do it. And I just thought to myself, okay, last year when they shipped my documents to New York for my travel visa, they used UPS. So why don't I just go to UPS, pay for the shipping that requires a signature with shipping back, and save myself some time? And that's exactly what I did. I just went straight to UPS instead of having to go through VFS Global, because VFS is the absolute worst. They are the pits. Like they suck on a different level. But I shipped it. I applied on a Thursday. Actually, no, I applied on a Wednesday. I sent my documents on Thursday morning. They got them by Friday. And I had my passport back by the following Wednesday. I just didn't know it. So I was in a panic thinking my flight is for Friday. My documents aren't back. I was panicking. And then I checked the tracking number. My package was there, and I went and I picked it up on Friday morning, the morning of my flight. I went to pick it up at 8. My flight was leaving at 2 p.m. I live an hour and a half away from the airport, so I had to leave the house by at least 10, because 2 hours for international flights. Blah. It was a whole thing. But again, with the visa application process, I didn't have to send them that many documents. I didn't have to put in a lot of information. That worked to my advantage. I can imagine if I had been a Zim citizen, they would have wanted me to prove a lot more as far as financials go. But luckily for me, like, things worked out, so I'm very grateful for that. But yeah, thank goodness that when I applied for my visa, I was already an American citizen, because if I had applied and gotten it and then become an American citizen, I feel like we've just made the process a whole lot more complicated. But that's it as far as like the moving process. If you have more specific questions, please feel free to message me, DM me, text me if you have my phone number. I'm more than happy to answer questions. I will say it's more so for American citizens, I would say, or people who are permanent residents in the US trying to come to school here. I'll probably be a lot more use. If you're coming from another country, I may not be as useful to you as I would love to be. But if you want help, let me know, because I do know other people who go to school here who could prove to be useful resources to you guys as well. One other thing I will say is take the time to really search for programs that you want to go to school for, and see which is going to serve you the best. And then as far as like finding the schools that FAFSA covers, if you go on the FAFSA website, they have a spreadsheet of international schools that they cover tuition for. So there's a bunch of schools in the UK, there's some in Paris, a lot in Europe, there are a lot of schools like in Australia and Canada. Like they pretty much cover on every continent. They also cover tuition if I decided I wanted to go to UCT, or if I wanted to go to UJ, I could have done that, because they cover tuition for there. So they do have quite a large variety of schools, and if it's something that you've been wanting to do, go for it. Like 100% do it. Just do your research as far as the program. Make sure that it works for you. Don't do it as a way of like running away from your problems, because your problems just gonna follow you across the globe. If you're not happy because you're unhappy in general, not because, okay, I just don't like where I live, deal with whatever's actually bothering you instead of trying to run away from your problems, because they're going to follow you across the continents. I hate to break it to you, they are going to follow you. But that's pretty much it. Again, if you have any other questions, feel free to message me. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video. Please, again, like, comment, and subscribe. Share with your friends, your family, and I will see you guys. You're gonna get another video from me today, because it's Vlogtober, and you'll be getting videos every day for the rest of the month of October. Fingers crossed, hopefully you should be. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.